Revelation chapter 19 and verse 10. John here sees an angel, and I fell at his feet to worship him, but he said, no, 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 no. See that thou do it not. I am your fellow servant and of your brethren who have the testimony of what? Jesus. There it is again. That's the same phrase. Now watch what the angel says. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Do you see that, everyone? I mean, it's just as plain as the noonday sun. The angel said it. Pastor Asscherick didn't say it. The testimony of Jesus is the what? Spirit of prophecy. And so God's last day people, according to Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, have the commandments of God, and they have the testimony of Jesus. And the angel tells us the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Okay? So, it will keep God's commandments. It will have guidance by the gift of prophecy. I'm going to come back to that one. Number 3, it has to be a worldwide mission-driven movement. Some little church cannot pitch up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama and say they're the remnant church of God, because the church, and they could be in Tuscaloosa, but they can't be only in Tuscaloosa, and here's why. This message that this church is going to be preaching has to go to every nation and every kindred and every tongue and every people. It's got to be a worldwide church. You might have your nice little church over in Sterling Heights that you love, the donuts and the stained glass window and the organ. Well, good for you. Are you reaching people outside of Sterling Heights? Is that an important question? Yes or no? Does God love people in Sterling Heights more than the rest of the world? No, 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 no. So we're looking for a church that's a worldwide, mission-driven movement. Can you say amen? By the way, as soon as you say worldwide church, if you want to talk about true churches, that is groups that are not classified by some as cults, you only got 2 options. Do you hear what I said? You only got 2 options. The moment that you decide that the Bible teaches it has to be a worldwide church, you got 2 choices. Now, if you want to talk about groups that some would label as cults, and I would agree with that, the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, I'm not even including those because those are considered so non-orthodox that the majority of people wouldn't call them churches anyway. Not to say that there are not good people in those communions. Can you say amen? No question about that. But if you're just going to talk about churches, that is churches that are accepted by the mass populace as being churches that are worldwide, you got 2 options. How many? 2. I challenge you to look through this. You know what your first option is? The Catholics. That's exactly right. They are a worldwide, they are all over the globe, they're a worldwide church. And you got another option. And that's the option I'm going to tell you about here in just a little minute. It happens to be the church that I'm a member of. Look at number 4. This church will call people to a total commitment to Christ. Can you say amen? Absolutely. It's not going to be this, I'm a religious person on Sunday morning, and then I go home to watch the football games, and I leave my religious self back at the church. Amen? Now that doesn't mean, and I want to be strong on this, that does not mean that everybody who's a member of the church that I consider to be God's last day church is got all their cards in a row and all their ducks lined up and that they're all Spirit-filled. You can find bad people in every church and you can find good people in every church. Someone say amen. But we're talking as a system. The call would be to a total commitment to Christ. I don't want to stand up here and say, oh, look at my fancy car. My car's prettier than your car. My dad could beat up your dad. My church is better than your church. On that, no, it's not about that. Can you say amen? Has nothing to do with that. What we're looking for is a body of believers who are trying by the grace of God to cling to the Word in its entirety and to prepare a people for the soon coming of Jesus Christ. That's what we're looking for. Are we saying that every person in that church is perfect? Not even close. Are we saying that every person in that church is absolutely, just exactly what you would expect to find? No, we're not saying that. What we are saying is that it's an organization, and organizations are made up of people, and not everybody is perfect. Someone say amen. Okay, here we go. Number 5, that this organization is clearly going to have to lead people back to the Bible Sabbath. Why? Because we've been studying that. The whole Mark of the Beast issue, the whole United States and Bible prophecy issue centers around this whole big picture of God's commandments versus the traditions of men. God's commandments versus the rules and dogmas and decrees of men. And so whoever this last day church is, they have got to be keeping God's Sabbath and not the mark of Rome's ecclesiastical authority. If that makes sense, say amen. Now think of it this way. Somebody said to me one time, well, how do I know what church to go to? I mean, it would take me so long. If I opened up the phone book and I started with the CH, church, and I'm going to go to this church and 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 to go find God's remnant church. I'm going to go find God's true church. Beloved, you know what? you can basically make your task infinitely easier by just going through all of the churches that don't keep the Sabbath and discarding them. Does that make sense? Now, am I saying that doesn't mean that God doesn't have His people there? Am I saying that? God has His people in there. But beloved, if God's last day church is going to be leading people to the biblical Sabbath, then all you have to do is start going through and looking for the churches that are keeping the biblical Sabbath, not the papal Sabbath. Does that make sense? And so you go through, and that's going to reduce your list by about 90%. Are you with me, everyone? I mean, your job just got infinitely easier right there. Now let's continue on here. Number 6, it would encourage people to live healthy lives spiritually, socially, mentally, and physically. Can you say amen? Absolutely. That's what we saw there in Revelation chapter 14. The first angel's message is fear God and what? Give glory to Him. And Paul says there in 1 Corinthians, he says, therefore, whatever you do, whether you eat or whether you drink, do how much to the glory of God? Do everything to the glory of God. And so these people would be spiritually healthy, socially healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy. A call to give our lives, our bodies back to God. This is what I like to call it. It's the gospel lifestyle. Can you say amen? Beloved, if you're a Christian, it should impact every aspect of your life. As somebody has said one time, if you were accused in a court of law of being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? You follow? If you're a Christian, somebody ought to be able to look at your checkbook and know. Woo! If you're a Christian, somebody should be able to go to even your cupboards and be able to tell. Somebody should be able to go through your library and know if you're a Christian. Come on now. Beloved, it's a lifestyle. There's so many of us, we have this little compartmentalized view of what it means to be a Christian. Oh, this is where I'm a religious person, over here on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, and now I leave my religious person at church. I don't want him or her to get dirty. And then I go out for the rest of my life, and I'm my normal, regular self. No! The gospel lifestyle says, I'm a Christian, 24/7. I live for the glory of God all the time. Amen? Whew, I tell you, I'm never going to finish this.